Welcome everybody. Today we are with Corey Holmes, and he works for the Kansas City Fire Department. We're just going to be going through some questions today about firefighting, kind of how he got into this job, what it's all like, and we'll move forward from there. So, without further ado, Corey, go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit, and then we'll dive into the questions.
Hey guys, my name is Corey Holmes. Let's see, where should I start off? But I grew up in Denver, Colorado, and lived in Littleton, Colorado, which is the suburb of Denver. And I grew up playing baseball. Sports was kind of my thing, and really clinged on to baseball. And that's actually how me and Mr. Luby met, was through baseball. We played together at York College in York, Nebraska. And yeah, so after I graduated from college, I moved to Lincoln, Nebraska, and lived in Lincoln for, I think, 2 or so years, worked at Shields All Sports, and was doing some sales type work. And yeah, just had a feeling that I wanted to do more in my life. I wanted to give more of myself. And so firefighting was something. It's funny because for a lot of firefighters, it's something that they are they would tell you that they're born to do, or that, they never thought about doing any other work at all. And for me, it was a little bit of a different story. For me, it was more of the stability of the job. It was more the flexibility of the schedule that was really attractive to me. And also just a major factor for me as well was just helping people that are truly in need. I think that speaks to definitely a side of me. So yeah, that's really what brought me into firefighting. I've only been on for just over a year now, but I absolutely love it. So.
Perfect.
Should I add anything else?
No, that's a good start. That's a great start.
Okay, good deal.
We'll dive into some of these questions though. So, as far as the first one, you kind of touched on it, but what inspired you to become a firefighter in the first place?
Yeah, so I think for me, when I was working at Shields that time in my life, I just graduated from college, and I think that I was really kind of doing some soul searching. I know that sales wasn't necessarily for me. It wasn't something that I, woke up and was super excited about. So I think the biggest thing that inspired me to become a firefighter was knowing that there's a true passion to help people there. There's a true need to help people. They're calling us on their worst days ever, and so, yeah, just allowing me to feel like I am truly helping. So.
Yeah, totally. And so as a firefighter, I know that your schedule can look pretty different from day to day. So as far as what a typical day looks like, you mind describing that as well as kind of what your schedule looks like?
Yeah. So typical firefighting day. So we work 24 hours at a time, and we live at the station. We eat meals at the station. We brush our teeth. We shower at the station. So we're truly living there full time for 24 hours. And then once you're off the 24 hours, then you have 48 hours of your own time. Your at-home time is what they call it. So, and that's a rotating schedule. Now, whenever I do work my 24-hour shift, I have to report at the station by 6:30 a.m. They call it a shift change. So shift change happens at 7 a.m. But as kind of a courtesy, you're supposed to show up 30 minutes earlier prior to your shift to relieve the guy that, just spent 24 hours on shift. And so I get to the station at 6:30. The first thing we do in the morning time, we clean, we mop, we sweep, we take out the trash, we wash windows, we pick up the station. So that's really the first thing that we do in the morning time. And after that, you kind of have about an hour or so to yourself. That's the time that I take to, make my bed, get settled into my living quarters. And so I would say roughly around 10 a.m. is when we actually all head to the grocery store. That's kind of A big deal in the fire department is your time at the grocery store. Um, a lot of the firefighters take food very seriously. There's some amazing cooks on the job. And so that 10 a.m., that store time is a big deal. So your entire crew will go to the store, you'll grocery shop with your actually own money. Most people think that it's like the city's money that, you're shopping with, but it actually comes from our own paycheck. So we shop and we buy all of our groceries for the day. And then roughly around 11 a.m. is when we start prepping for lunch. And so, yeah, we'll do anything from, your classic burgers all the way up to a Hawaiian teriyaki chicken. We've done smothered pork chops before, mashed potatoes. So like I said, it's a pretty big deal as far as food goes. And then, so after lunch will usually wrap about 12:30, and that's nap time. There is no questions asked. Everyone heads up to their bunks, and they crash out for probably 2 or 3 hours or so. You won't see anyone in the firehouse. Everyone's taking their naps. So, and then I would say roughly around, 3 o'clock, 3 or 4, you'll start to get up, and that's the time where you can get a workout in. We do have 45 minutes to an hour of allotted workout time on shift. And so that's really nice. Most guys try and get a workout in during that time. And then roughly around 5 p.m., that's when you start prepping for dinner. And so you get in the kitchen, you wash dishes. As the new guy, you're washing a lot of dishes, or you're chopping onions, cucumbers, whatever needs to be chopped. So, that's kind of how the day goes. And then throughout, so roughly around 7 p.m., that's when we wrap up dinner time. And after 7 p.m., it's really your time. Everyone kind of goes up to their bunks, or if there's maybe a sporting event, we all might gather around, the television to watch the sporting event, or maybe catch a movie at some points. But, that's kind of the typical day. Now, in between all of that, we are responding to calls. So you have to remember that. So say you're, it's lunchtime and you're sitting down eating lunch, and the bells go off. You do have to leave your lunch and, go respond to calls. So, and that's for the entire 24 hours. You're responding to any emergencies that come up. So that's kind of what our day looks like. If Mr. Luby had more questions to follow up, I'm not sure if I hit all the points there, but.
No, you did great. You did great. And obviously, like, some of those responsibilities you have obviously include, fighting fires, but there's also a lot of responsibilities you have outside of that as well. So maybe could you touch on some of the other responsibilities that you have outside of just the fighting fires aspect?
Fighting fires, yeah. So we have a ton of responsibilities just within the station. So like I was saying, the station is our home for 24 hours at a time. So it's a really big deal that we take care of our home, right? So we're really big on cleaning up after ourselves, making sure that our fire rigs are clean. We wash our rigs. And when I say rigs, I mean our fire trucks, our ambulances. We wash those vehicles every single shift to make sure that, they look great. So I'm not sure if everyone knows this, but the taxpayers are what pay for the fire trucks that you see around the city and whatnot. So it's truly the people's money, and it's what we're driving around is the people of Kansas City. It's their money that they've invested for their emergency vehicles. So we make sure that we take care of those. That's definitely very high on the priority list. And like I said, just making sure that you are cleaning up. Cleaning is a huge part of it. And then also credentialing, making sure that you're staying up on your credentials. So as an EMT and as a firefighter credential, you have to make sure that those credentials stay current. And so you're doing a lot of studying, a lot of out-of-class work, they call it. So, that's kind of our other responsibilities that we have.
Yeah, and do you respond to anything outside of fires? Do you respond to any other, like, emergency situations?
Yeah, we respond to literally anything. I'm trying to recall a few
kind of different calls that we've responded to. Cat in the Tree, that's the classic firefighter, call. And I have been on, I think, 2 Cat in the Tree calls within my year already. We respond to a lot of lift assists. So, a lot of times, especially as you age, your muscles and bones deteriorate.
Mhm.
And so you're a fall risk. And so whenever we have an elderly person fall, they need help up. Maybe they don't have a family member that lives with them that's able to lift them. So that's when they call us, and we come over to the residents and we help give them a lift, just simply lifting them up off the ground onto their feet. And they usually have the biggest smile on their face and super friendly. And it ends up being a great time. But let's see, what else? Gosh. We respond to, there was this one call, a kid, I'm not sure where his parents were, but he called us and said that he needed help getting his soccer ball off the roof. And so we took our 24-foot ladder and we scaled the side of his house and we got his soccer ball off the roof. So in his mind, it was a true emergency. In our mind, we went back to the station. We had a good laugh, but truly we respond to everything, anything and everything. Whatever people decide is an emergency, we don't have the right as the firemen to say, hey, that's not an emergency. We're not going to respond to that. So.
Perfect. And so obviously, working in emergency services, you probably have to have some education certificates, right? And so
Yes.
could you go through some of the education certificates that are required for the job?
Yeah, so each city actually has its own qualifications that they require in order to become part of the fire department. And so for here in Kansas City, they actually don't require you to have any sort of certification. All you need is, well, first of all, to be 18 years old, and then a valid driver's license, and also a resident of Kansas City. If you have those 3 things, you can absolutely apply to the fire department. Now, I do know that in most jurisdictions, that is not the case. You at least need an EMT certification, which is going to be your emergency medical technician certification. And so I had actually gotten my EMT a few years back. I think in 2023-ish is when I got mine, and actually got mine in Lincoln, Nebraska. And so I came on to the Kansas City Fire Department already having my EMT, but I will say 90% of fire departments do require you to already have that EMT certification. And what that certification looks like, it's about a 3-month program. It's pretty flexible. For me, I was working full time, actually at FedEx. I was a delivery driver, and I was also taking classes for my EMT. I think Monday, Wednesday, Friday, from about 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And so those EMT classes can be pretty flexible if you're working or if you're in school. And so, yeah, I would say that's definitely a good thing that it can be flexible. But I would say, once again, 90% of the time you're going to need that EMT to apply to most departments.
And kind of regarding the application process, do you mind sharing kind of what the hiring process looks like?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mr. Louis. So once again, each jurisdiction, so each city is so different. Kansas City has a really unique way of hiring. At least I thought. I really thought that I was going to interview with, chiefs and captains and actually interview, face to face with these individuals. And that wasn't the case. I actually took a test. I'm spacing what that test was called. But basically, it's just like a general studies test, a general education test. So you had reading questions, mathematical questions, and yeah, it was pretty basic. But I took this test over a Zoom call, and it was a proctored test, and I scored high enough on this test that I ended up getting an email saying essentially that you're hired, which was pretty shocking to me. Once again, I thought I would have to interview face-to-face with people of the department, but that was not the case. They just, accepted me off of my testing score. And so for other jurisdictions, like I will say probably 90%, once again, you will do a face-to-face interview at some point. I have a family member that's actually just recently applied to Westminster, Colorado Fire Department, and his process looks so different than mine. He's got essentially 3 different interviews. One, I think the first round is over a Zoom call. The second round is, I want to say, like with the HR department, I'm pretty sure. And then if you make it to the third round, that's your chief's interview. And so there's a panel of chiefs that are interviewing and throwing different questions at you. So, like I said, each jurisdiction or each city really looks completely different. It just depends on where you live. And so I would highly recommend you can just go on the city of Lincoln or wherever you live and type in, the fire department there. And they should have on their website the list of requirements that's required to apply and what the interview process looks like.
Perfect. And as far as people that are interested in applying, are there any like skills or personal qualities that would contribute to a successful firefighter?
Yeah, I would say number one, I would list as selflessness. You're responding to, like I said, someone's worst day. And so you really can't have any sort of judgment going on with what that person deems as, an emergency. That's why you chose to join the fire department, and that's what you signed up for. And so whenever that call does come in, you have to be ready to go. You have to be, make sure that you're in a good headspace to be your best and do whatever, they see fit and trust that your training is going to show up. So there was another piece to that question that I wanted to touch on, but I'm spacing. Can you repeat the question, Mr. Lou?
Yeah, it's skills and personal qualities that are good.
Oh, yes. So number 2 is definitely physical fitness. So to get on with the department, there's a test called a CPAT, and it's a physical agility test that's going to, it tests you for sure. It was definitely a rigorous physical test. They put you on a stair stepper, which is a cardio machine, and you have a 75-pound vest on while you're doing the stair stepper. And then once you're off the stair stepper, they put you through a whole obstacle of different firefighting techniques. There's like a ladder pull, there's a dummy drag, there's a tool haul. So all these different variables that they throw at you. And so physical preparedness is definitely high on the list. You definitely want to be prepared physically and exercise. So, yeah, I would say. And then third, if I could add a third. Yeah, I would say just your mental health, overall health, but especially mental health. You see a lot of things on the job. You do see death. You do see people in pretty severe circumstances. And so, yeah, you have to really take care of your physical health, but more importantly, probably your emotional and mental health, because seeing those calls and responding to those emergencies can definitely take a toll on you. And so, yeah, whether that's talking to a therapist or, talking with your captain at the station, or even a close friend to just, talk out those things that you have seen. That's really important. So.
Yeah, and kind of branching off of that, how do you personally handle any stressful or emotional situations for yourself or other maybe victims that you have to work with? Is there like anything put in place that is kind of standardized for the firefighters?
Yeah, so Kansas City does a really great job with taking care of our mental health. It's called 42 Cares, and 42 is so as a fireman, you have a union that you're actually a part of, and that union protects protects your job essentially. And so you have different benefits that come with that union. And the union's job is just to make sure that, you are being taken care of in all regards of life, really. And so 42 Cares is what we have here in Kansas City, and they do a great job just assisting us with whatever we need, really, whether that's, talking to therapists. They have different therapists that they've contracted with, that we have free services that we can seek out. They have, so say you have a family member that passes away, they actually will fill your spot for however long you need to be away from the fire station. The union will fill your spot and make sure that, someone is in your seat, so that you can have that time away with your family. They do truly so much for us. The union does. So, I would say that's definitely a benefit to the job. I don't know if we've talked about benefits of the job yet, but having that union and having those resources is definitely a great thing to have.
Nice. And kind of diving into benefits a little bit. Well, what are some of the challenging aspects of your job, but also some of the most rewarding aspects and some of the things set in place that
Yeah,
make the job beneficial for you?
for sure. So I'll start by saying that firefighting is the best job that I've ever had. I truly do love it. And with that being said, it is a job at the end of the day, and jobs, you guys will come to find out that jobs come with good and bad, pros and cons. And so, as much pros as there are, there's definitely cons. Cons can really be specific to the person. I would say some cons for me, I would list as maybe not getting quality sleep. And so, we work 24 hours at the station, and so we're sleeping there. And, during, say I go to bed at 9 o'clock, I could wake up at, midnight, 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and I have to respond to a call. And so not getting quality sleep is, I would list as a con. That can play into mental health as well. If you go a long period without getting quality sleep, sleep is so beneficial for our health, and disrupting that sleep can really throw ourselves off. And so I would say a con is the sleeping schedule. But at the same time, a pro is a schedule. Is the schedule that we do work. It's Wednesday, and I'm at a park hanging out with my wife, and it's definitely a pro to have these random days off. And so for me, I would say that I enjoy the schedule, but that could be a con for an individual would be the schedule. So Mr. Louis, did you want to ask any more follow-up questions with that? I don't know if I quite answered that one.
No, I think you got that perfectly. As far as what your shift looks like, because I know you mentioned that you're on for a certain amount and off for a certain amount. As far as kind of what your single shift looks like, about how many emergencies do you typically respond to, or is it kind of dependent on the day?
Yeah, it definitely depends on the day. We joke around and say that Friday nights, oh man, you better watch out. Friday nights are pretty hectic, or they can be. Sundays are usually really slow. Sundays we typically only have probably 3 to 4 calls a shift. And I will say, depending on where you're at in the city, Kansas City is a really big city. And so it has its suburbs, it has its, inner city core. And so out in the suburbs, where I work, there's a lot less emergencies, you could say, than down in the city. A lot more people, it's a lot more congested, and so a lot more things are happening. And so they have a lot of fire that they respond to down in the core of the city. For instance, on Christmas Day, one of our busiest stations this past Christmas, they responded to 4 individual fires within one Christmas day. So that's a lot. So yeah, really just where you're at, where you're located in the city as far as your fire station goes, will dictate how busy or how non-busy, your day is going to be.
Right. And I imagine, the busier the schedule, the more you rely on kind of teamwork. So, as far as what, teamwork looks like in your job, how would you kind of describe that?
Yeah, teamwork is huge. I can't put enough emphasis on teamwork. Um, so in academy, you have what's called, well, at least in Kansas City, you have what's called a battle buddy. And this battle buddy, a rule of the fire ground is 2 in, 2 out. And what that means is you're not going in any place alone. You're always going in, there's 2 of you, 2 in, 2 out. And it took me a long, a long time to catch up to that in academy. I found myself, and this might sound really extreme, but they were really just trying to drill this into our heads. I remember one time specifically, I got up to use the restroom during a class in academy, and I came back to the classroom, and my captain, he didn't say anything, but he had that look in his eyes like, Holmes, you messed up. And so after class, he talked to me. He pulled me aside and he said, I realized, or he said that, he's like, you know what you did? I was like, I don't know what I used the restroom. And he goes, you went alone. And I was like, oh, yeah, I went to the bathroom, alone. And he's like, nope. He's like, we don't do that. And we had this drill tower. It was like 11-story drill tower. And he informed me that I was to run 11 up and down this 11-story tower. So, yeah, I lost a lot of weight that day. That was feeling pretty good. But, yeah, they really hone in on the fact that you don't go inside anywhere without someone that's next to you. Because your job is to look out after your brother or your sister, and whenever you're in a fire, conditions can get pretty hectic. You don't know where you're at. You have to be really vigilant on, who's your surroundings, but who's also with you. And so, yeah, I would say that definitely there is a unity there, and it is a vital part of being a firefighter, definitely.
For sure. And I noticed you said your brother or your sister. So would you say there are quite a few, or there's quite a bit of, males and females that are in the fire department?
Yeah, I would say that there's definitely more. It's definitely a male-dominated industry. However, there is such a need for female firefighters. Females, in my opinion, have this beautiful ability to just have this intuition that I feel like us males might struggle with, of just knowing if a person is in need, or knowing their needs before, I can even realize what they need. We've responded to calls to where maybe it's a domestic situation and a female doesn't necessarily want to speak with the male. A male is a threatening a thing to her, right? So she needs that female to come in and maybe take over that call and be able to meet her on the level of like, hey, I'm safe here. I can communicate with her. She sees me, and so I've been on a few calls like that, domestic calls that we didn't realize, we didn't think at the time, hey, that girl's, she's not really making eye contact with us. She's not wanting to, really speak to us. And, we look around, it's all guys. And so we could have really used a female in that situation to go in and meet that, other female eye to eye. So
that's good to know.
No.
And
yeah,
I think that's good for a lot of students to know as well, especially people that are interested in this kind of field. So
absolutely.
I only got
I tip my hat to all the females on the job. I really do. I have so much respect for them.
Yeah.
So much respect.
And I only have a few more questions, but kind of regarding the job in general, are there many opportunities for advancement?
Yes. So it's really based on a seniority system. The fire department, you promote based on how long you've been on the fire department. So let's see if I can break this down. So on a fire truck, you have different seats, right? You have your driver. Next to your driver, you have a captain. Behind the captain is the newest firefighter, so that's where I sit, the new guy. And then next to me is a paramedic, typically a paramedic firefighter. So the driver's seat, you have to be on, with Kansas City, you have to be on the department for 5 years in order to drive the fire truck. In order to be a captain, you have to be on for 10 years. And so whenever you hit these year marks, you can test out, they call it, to where you take a test online, and that's how you promote it. You'll take a driver test, or after 10 years, you'll be able to take that captain's test, and then so on. I think to become a chief, I think you have to be on, I want to say 15 years. So, and I think you have to have at least 5 years on as being a captain before you promote to chief. But it truly is just putting your time in. The more time you have, you're going to just keep climbing and promoting. And so, there's definitely an incentive to promote too. I mean, the fire department, if we talk about pay, the pay is there. A lot of times you might hear that firefighters, don't get paid, like they should or whatnot. But I have a different story. I have a different perspective. I truly think that there is good pay. The pay is there, especially to be in the driver's spot or the captain or a chief spot, obviously. But even as the new guy, you can work overtime, and which is paid at a time and a half, and so it's you're getting paid pretty decent. So is there any follow-up questions with that?
I think you answered that pretty well. I only got 3 more questions for you though, and then we'll close on out here. As far as you talked about experience, is there any experience for people that maybe aren't firefighters yet to gain some experience before they get into the field? So maybe volunteer firefighting or just some general knowledge.
Yeah, that's a great question. I love that question. Something that I did not know about, I was not aware of. So all firehouses are publicly owned. The city owns them, and so once again, the taxpayers are the ones that are really taking care of the firehouse. And so with that, you can literally walk off the street in any fire station, and you can ask to do a ride along. And so depending on the crew, some crews might be more friendly and welcoming. Some crews, maybe if they're busy, might say, hey, could you come back, at a later time? We've got this going on. But every crew should really, say, yes, we'll take you along with us, because, once again, you are essentially paying for their rigs and everything that they have. So, it's a great way a ride along is a great way to see the ins and outs of the job before really committing to it. You can see, what responding to a call looks like. You can see how the fire station really works. Now, you can't stay the night at the fire station if you do these ride-alongs, but you can definitely, stay for a few hours and, maybe share a meal with them if they invite you. And so I would highly encourage, doing a ride-along. And like I said, anyone can walk into any fire station and do a ride-along.
It's good to hear. And for any students that are watching, I can help set that up for you.
Absolutely.
And so as we kind of finish out here, what advice would you give a high school student that's interested in this field? And maybe what's one piece of advice you would have gave yourself before you started?
Yeah, I would say, well, I'll speak to my former self, I guess, first. And I would tell my younger self to apply sooner, man. Apply sooner. It's such a really great career choice, especially being so young. I'll just kind of give you guys some insight. So we had my class. I'm 30 years old. I was an old guy in my academy class, okay? We had a kid that had just graduated high school. He was 18 years old, had just turned 18 years old, and applied for the fire department and got on. And with the fire department, you get a pension as well, which is a great retirement benefit. And so his name was, well, I probably shouldn't name drop, but this individual, he was 18 years old when he got hired. He will be, I think, 42 years old when he retires, a full pension. And so, yeah, he's going to be well set by the time it's all said and done. And that's all because he applied so early. He got into it really early. Here in Kansas City, you serve, I think it's like 25 years, and then you can retire with your full pension. And so, yeah, for this guy, he'll put in his 25 years and he'll be out the door, full pension. But so yeah, I would tell myself to apply a lot sooner. And then my advice for a high school student now would be to apply sooner if you're really interested. And also just, well, before you apply, really do your research, really see if it's something that you want to do. Now, with that, even if you're on the fence about it, the job does allow flexibility. And so you are able to pursue other things outside of your career of being a fireman. And so with our 24-48 schedule, or some jurisdictions do like a 48-hour shift, and then you have 96 hours off. And so there's that flexibility piece there, to where a lot of the guys or people, they have different side jobs, different businesses that they have. And so there's so much flexibility there with being a fireman, as well as great benefits. So I truly don't think there's a better gig in the world. That could be because I've only been on for a year and I'm the new guy, and I just think it's great. But I truly do. I can't speak highly of it enough. And especially for those graduating high school, like if you have any interest at all, really go in and get educated about it, because it could be life-changing. It really can be life-changing for you, and allow you to pursue different things and, travel the world, because you got a couple days off. So
Perfect. Well, that's all the questions I have for you. Appreciate your time, and we'll just close out here.